High in the Cordillera Mountains of the Philippines lies one of the country's greatest archaeological enigmas. Deep inside hidden caves rest the Kabayan fire mummies' ancient bodies, preserved with a method so precise yet so undocumented that no record of it exists today. Unlike Egypt's mummies, the Igorot ancestors passed this knowledge verbally, but somewhere through the generations, the exact process vanished, leaving behind preserved corpses dating back to the 12th century with no explanation. What we know comes from fragments. The process began while the person was still dying, sipping herbal salt water to dehydrate the body from within. The corpse was then washed and seated over a smoldering fire for weeks, not burned but smoked. The mystery is, this alone doesn't explain the perfect preservation. Researchers have tried to reverse engineer it, but the results never match. To the Igorot people, the answer isn't just science. It's a sacred art, lost forever. Countless legends exist about omen signs that warn communities of danger long before it arrives. But among these tales, one stands apart. Because the warnings were not whispered by spirits or drawn in the clouds. They were rung by a bell that seemed to have a consciousness of its own. For generations, villagers swore that before every major disaster, storms, earthquakes, even war, an ancient bell would ring without a single human hand touching it. This is the story of the mysterious bell that rings by itself before a disaster. Many provinces claim stories of this phenomenon, but one of the most famous comes from an old church in Ibaloi, where villagers say an ancient bronze bell cast during the Spanish era would ring on its own, shortly before calamity struck. Not gently, not accidentally, but with the full force of a bell being pulled by an invisible hand. Witnesses describe the sound as deeper, heavier, almost distressed, as if the bell itself was alive. And every time it rang, something terrible followed. Unlike ordinary church bells, this one was said to have been cast with a mixture of metal and something far stranger, gold from the community. According to oral accounts, people donated heirloom pieces, rings, bracelets, even ancestral beads, believing that adding gold would give the bell a soul. Gold, in ancient Filipino belief, was more than wealth. It was life. It carried the spirit of the owner and the blessing of the ancestors. This tradition suggests the bell was intended to be more than a tool. It was meant to be a guardian, imbued with the collective spirit of the people it was built to protect. One of the earliest recorded stories tells of a night in the late 1800s. The town was quiet. The skies were clear. Then suddenly the bell began to ring violently at midnight. People rushed to the church, expecting an intruder, a prankster, or a loose rope. But when they arrived, the belfry was empty. The rope hung still. The air was cold and silent, except for the fading echo of the frantic tolling. Moments later, the ground trembled. A massive earthquake followed, destroying parts of the town. The villagers never forgot that night, and after that, whenever the bell rang unexpectedly, they listened. During typhoon seasons, the bell gained an unsettling reputation. Local archives mention at least 2 instances where the bell rang hours before a super typhoon made landfall, long before weather instruments existed in these rural areas. To the villagers, the bell was not simply ringing, it was warning. Parents would gather their children, farmers secured their animals, and fishermen would refuse to go out to sea, and time after time, the bell's warnings proved true, saving countless lives by giving them the one thing they needed most: time. Today, experts attempt to explain the phenomenon in rational terms. Some say strong winds caused the ringing, a simple case of aerodynamics. Others propose that subtle changes in air pressure, minute seismic vibrations preceding an earthquake, or even temperature shifts in the metal itself could cause the clapper to move. But if you ask the locals, they'll tell you something simple. None of those explanations account for when it happened. There were nights when the air was still, the skies calm, yet the bell rang with full force. And most importantly, no other bell in any of the neighboring towns ever behaved the same way. But here's where the story turns even stranger. In the early 1900s, the bell vanished. Some say it was stolen during the chaos of the Philippine-American War. Others believe it was taken by treasure hunters, mistaken for a solid gold artifact. A few claim it was hidden by the townspeople themselves to prevent desecration by invading forces. But the most chilling version, that the bell rang one final, deafening time and was never seen again. Some believe it cracked itself from the sheer force of its last warning. Others think it was swept away and sank into a river after a great flood. No trace of it has ever been recovered. It became a legendary missing guardian, a silenced sentinel. What makes this mystery even more compelling is that similar stories exist in other provinces across the archipelago. In Bicol, locals speak of a church bell that rang 4 hours before Mayon volcano erupted. In Antique, an old campanario reportedly told ahead of a devastating landslide. In Pangasinan, elders recall a bell that rang on its own just before a massive flood hit their town. Each version shares one chilling pattern. A bell rings, no one is there. A disaster follows. Is it mere coincidence, a paranormal phenomenon, or simply an example of communities interpreting rare natural events through the powerful lens of cultural memory? The answer remains elusive. To scientists, the story is a fascinating intersection of natural physics and human psychology. To locals, it is a sacred reminder that objects made with devotion and with gold-carrying ancestral energy can hold power beyond our understanding. But 2 generations who lived through its warnings. The bell was not superstition, it was protection. Today, the whereabouts of the mysterious warning bell remain unknown. Yet its legend lives on through stories, whispers, and the collective memory of those who heard it ring in the dead of night. Whether it was a guardian, an omen, or simply an unexplained marvel of science, the bell has become a powerful part of Philippine folklore, a symbol of warnings, of ancestors watching over the living, and of mysteries that refuse to fade. And perhaps if the world ever faces another disaster that echoes through the mountains, somewhere out there a forgotten bell may just ring one last time.